Corporate low-resolution communication mechanics describes a structural condition in which organizational communication loses semantic detail as scale, risk, and complexity increase. The communication does not become low resolution only because people write poorly. It becomes low resolution because the organization must produce messages that can survive many audiences, interpretations, and approval layers. Under this condition, communication no longer optimizes for clarity, it optimizes for survivability. The message must be safe enough to circulate, neutral enough to avoid escalation, and general enough to avoid obligations. The central distinction is simple. Low resolution communication is not the absence of communication. It is communication that keeps the outer shape of meaning while reducing the inner structure of meaning. A message may still contain greetings, values, acknowledgments, aspirations, and procedural language. It may look complete, but the more it must remain acceptable across different groups, the more specific content is removed. The first pressure is scale. A message for a small shared context can name the situation and speak to a specific audience. When the same message must reach hundreds or thousands of people, detail becomes harder to preserve. The audience no longer shares the same context, priorities, or risk tolerance. As the audience expands, the message is pushed toward broader and flatter language. The second pressure is risk. Specific language creates responsibility. A direct claim can be challenged, a clear stance can be contested, a concrete promise can become an obligation. For this reason, risk-sensitive organizations soften claims, abstract direct messages, and replace situated language with safer templates. The message becomes easier to approve, but harder to use. The third pressure is complexity. Large organizations contain many departments, roles, jurisdictions, cultures, and political sensitivities. A message that is accurate in one part may become risky in another. To avoid this, the system removes context-dependent language and searches for wording that can apply everywhere. But language that can apply everywhere often loses the ability to address anything in particular. This produces context-invariant messaging. The message can travel across situations because it depends on very little context. This makes it broadly readable, but also thin. It can survive movement, but cannot carry much situated meaning. Over time, these pressures create template dominance. The organization begins to reproduce a familiar message shape, an acknowledgement, a broad statement of care, a neutral description, a procedural assurance, and a closing statement of continued attention. This shape is a survival form. It allows the organization to appear responsive without becoming too specific. It allows communication to move while avoiding commitments that could create conflict, liability, or interpretive burden. The model also describes a recipient side effect. As messages become more predictable and less specific, recipients lower attention. The organization receives less meaningful feedback, and the pressure to improve resolution decreases. The system continues to communicate, but communication becomes a sign that communication has occurred, rather than a vehicle for shared understanding. The model is relevant to internal announcements, apologies, leadership statements, policy rollouts, public relations language, employee communication, and any context where messages pass through scale, risk review, and audience heterogeneity. It is especially useful when a message feels polished but difficult to interpret. The issue may be that the message has been filtered until only the safest semantic surface remains. This model should not be applied to every vague or generic message. Some messages are unclear because of poor drafting. Some are short because the situation does not require more detail. Some are neutral because neutrality is appropriate. The model applies when low resolution is produced by constraints that reward survivability over specificity, safety over precision, and universal readability over situated meaning. The analytic question is what the message had to remove in order to become acceptable for circulation. Minimal formulation. Corporate low-resolution communication mechanics describes a condition in which organizational communication remains formally active, while semantic resolution decreases under scale, risk, and complexity. Naming declaration. Corporate low-resolution communication mechanics originates within meta-writing ecology as a structural model for describing how organizational language becomes thinner under scale, risk, and complexity. It does not treat this loss as merely stylistic or accidental. It names communication that remains active while carrying less situated meaning.